Charles. Real name, Rojas.
Charles Rojas.
Good morning, Mr. Charles Rojas. We are here with the actor who plays the character of Lewis. How are you feeling this morning?
I feel great. I feel really well rested, which hasn't always been the case on certain days on set, but today I feel good.
What is the one thing that drew you to this production?
I think the story itself, more than anything. I mean, we're really, really fortunate to have an amazing cast and crew. Everyone's very hardworking and talented. But the number one thing for me is the story, and being Latino and having that heritage. I just felt like it was just really critical to be telling that story at this time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now we understand that you played one of the leading characters, Lewis, right? And who is torn apart from his family and unexpectedly. How did that make you feel as an actor? What were some of the elements that you thought of bringing to the character to make it more realistic, more appealing, more authentic?
I think a really important thing for Lewis is that he doesn't see this coming. You know, he's really focused on what he wants in his own life. He's in cadets training to be a police officer, so that's his dream. That's what he's focused on. And when his parents are deported, it completely throws him off, and now he can no longer focus on just what he wants and needs, but has to worry about his younger sisters and paying the rent, paying all their bills, and also trying to get their parents back. So it's just completely overwhelming for him.
Nice. Now we see a little bit of a tension between the son, Lewis, and the father, but we don't really quite understand the relationship they have. Can you explain us a little why do you think that is?
I think Lewis is very very Americanized, and he grew up surrounded by American culture. You know, he doesn't prefer to speak Spanish to his parents, but he does it because that's the language that they understand. So he is trying to remove himself from this Latin culture and from his heritage and his background. And when it comes to the relationship he has with his father, they clash, and that's the starting point. Number one, I think that he has a certain shame, at least at the beginning of his heritage, and he's not. It's not so much a shame as it is that he doesn't relate to it as much, you know. And so he'd like to see his father integrate more into American culture, but he doesn't really understand the sacrifices that both of his parents have made, you know, coming from Mexico and coming to the United States. So he wants to see his father, integrate more into American culture and really just not stay. To him, it's like his father's stuck in the past.
Got it.
Right? And he wants to bring Alvaro, into the present. It's like, Dad, look around you. Why are you speaking Spanish? And he doesn't understand the work that his father does. He doesn't understand the value of that hard work. And so there's a scene in the movie where Lewis puts his finger in the holes of Alvaro's shirt, and that's signifying that he's criticizing Alvaro for having this torn up shirt and for being messy and for not looking clean. And meanwhile Lewis is, he wants to make sure he looks clean and well groomed and all that. And so he's criticizing his appearance, but not understanding that it's due to all this hard work and sacrifices that Alvaro is making.
Wow. What are some of the correlations that you find yourself as the actor with the character of Lewis? Are there any similarities that you see?
There's definitely similarities. I would say there's a lot of differences too. So the differences are the ones that jump out to me more.
Such as?
Well, I like to think in real life I'm not as self-centered as Lewis because that's the arc of his characters. He goes from being very self-centered to being more generous and you know, being more of a fatherly figure to his younger sisters. So that's one thing I noticed right away is that Lewis is he's very much focused on, you know, him being the center of the universe and what he wants out of life. Um, that's the main thing. I would say Lewis and I are similar in terms of he's hardworking, you know. I think the important thing about the character is that don't just see him as a bad guy, you know, because then it's easy to kind of label him, and I don't want to do that. I want to, you know, show that he, even though he is self-centered at the beginning, he is very focused, and he is hardworking, and he does have this dream of being a police officer, so he's very motivated by that. And I would say that I relate to him at the beginning of the story in that capacity, and more towards the end of the story when we see a change in him and we see him come of age and be more mature.
Okay.